Today, I intend to find out which decks are the most effective and cost-efficient for climbing the ladder, as well as to answer the question: have the recent balance patch and mini-set improved the state of competitive play? And why does non-interactive gameplay persist despite these major changes?
Time to rock and roll!
Hello my friends. My name is Bot Mathematician and this is Holomancer.
Also, Chief Investigative Reporter Dora joined us this evening.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
The recent balance patch completely took down the dominant meta decks that had been exhausting players with their toxic interactions. Naturally, this led to the formation of a new competitive environment.
The impact of these changes has been largely positive, if only because the meta now feels fresh. But the universe abhors a vacuum, and as one set of toxic interactions disappeared, others slowly began to take their place. What's most ironic is that many of these new strategies are the very ones the developers had actively tried to suppress in the past.
It's a strange situation. It seems the game is incapable of fully eliminating toxic gameplay. The current standard format feels like a hydra. Cut off one head, and another grows in its place. In my view, we are now at a stage where the old head has been cut, but the new one is only beginning to emerge.
Let's try to understand the situation by looking at the best decks for each class. Death Knight continues to hold the title of the most diverse class, offering the highest number of viable competitive strategies. The rune system prevents powerful cards from dominating all archetypes, forcing players to maintain a wide variety of builds.
Following the announcement of the recent balance patch, which aimed to kill off decks capable of explosive mid-game turns, it became clear that aggressive strategies would thrive. Rainbow Menagerie Death Knight has turned into a true monster of the current meta, shining even brighter than before. It crushes slow decks and goes toe-to-toe with aggressive ones. Protos Mage has become the primary food source for this strategy, and the mage's high popularity after the patch played right into the deck's efficiency. Its playstyle remains unchanged. The archetype plays at an aggressive tempo, using a variety of minion types to empower them with Menagerie Jug and Eliza Goreblade. The deck is incredibly functional and versatile, discovering situational cards, buffing minions, generating resources, and controlling the board through highly efficient trades. This build broke our efficiency factor algorithm, which calculates the value of crafting a deck for effective ladder climbing based on minimal resources. With a score of 102%, the deck features an extremely low cost, only one epic and one legendary card, combined with incredible performance on the way to legend. A 60% win rate across 3,000 games in the past 24 hours is absolutely mind-blowing. If you're a new player or someone with very limited resources, you simply cannot afford to miss this deck.
After the nerf to the spell Cliff Dive, it seemed the archetype bearing its name would vanish from the meta. And it did, but a modified version of the deck, combined with a Death Rattle core, unexpectedly surged in power. Despite the nerf, the deck retained the ability to generate explosive turns. At the moment, it is the most popular Demon Hunter strategy. It's especially effective against slow decks like Imbue Priest, Protos Mage, and Wheel Warlock. Moreover, it lacks any clear counter. But I want to show you one more deck. Since early 2025, Pain Demon Hunter has remained on the fringes of the meta, despite maintaining a decent win rate. Players have mostly ignored the deck, since the class usually has more broken interactions available. After the balance patch, however, the strategy seized the opportunity to step into the spotlight, at least briefly. You deal damage to yourself with cards like Acupuncture, Nightshade Tea, or Infernal Stapler to trigger powerful effects from other minions and spells. For example, the spell Hot Coals becomes far more threatening, and Arana Thrill Seeker redirects the damage you take. This allows you to control the board effectively and scale up your damage quickly. The synergy is supported by a Death Rattle core, which provides a solid board presence while combining healing and damage. Overall, this synergy has become central to the class. This build currently boasts a stable 57% win rate over 3,000 games at Diamond rank, halfway to Legend. From a cost perspective, Pain Demon Hunter is quite affordable, just one legendary and 5 epic cards. This makes it appealing for players with limited resources. An efficiency factor of 67% confirms it. You get excellent value for your investment. Another advantage is the deck's low popularity. With the return of Cliff Dive in a new form, this strategy has once again faded into the background, lowering its visibility in the meta.
Imbue Druid took a minor hit in the recent nerfs, The developers reverted their previous buff, returning the spell Symbiosis to its original effect. While the strategy has adapted to better handle aggressive decks, it still struggles under heavy pressure.
The archetype faces numerous unfavorable matchups, from Protos Mages who freeze your board and deny you any meaningful late game, to Menagerie decks and aggressive rogues. However, this is the only deck that actively utilizes new cards from the mini-set, and that's an important advantage. Another issue with this build is its very high cost. It includes 6 legendary cards, which is reflected in its low efficiency factor of just 27%. Still, this build is my personal favorite. Malorn the Waywatcher provides powerful late game value, while Dream Planner Zephrys can generate control spells that help deal with aggro. But that's not all. Druid has another highly effective deck. The disappearance of previous meta favorites opened the door for strategies that do similar things, just a little slower. The spell damage archetype is one of those. As the overall power level declined, Ethereal Oracle took the opportunity to begin a slow expansion across the meta. The deck can generate a tremendous amount of value seemingly out of thin air against slow decks, while also holding its own against aggro. In general, the return of this deck to the meta might signal the beginning of a new wave of problems, the kind the developers tried to suppress during the Great Dark Beyond meta. Combo decks are coming back, and they bring a fresh dose of non-interactive gameplay. Frankly, the steady rise of this strategy worries me.
Players have almost forgotten about Hunter. After the patch, handbuff Hunter remained on the fringes of the meta, even though it boasts a 59% win rate between Diamond and Legend. The core idea is to buff your hand and then strike hard. The deck balances between tempo and mid-range styles, relying on fast minion buffs through cards like Reserved Spot and especially Cup O Muscle, with Mythical Runebear and Bumbling Bellhop as key buff targets. Personally, I don't enjoy this playstyle. It relies too much on having the right cards in hand. Unfortunately, Bursting Shot is the only new card from the mini-set, and it serves purely a technical role. From a budget perspective, Handbuff Hunter is quite affordable, just 2 legendaries and 4 epics. This makes it a great pick for players looking to climb efficiently without spending a ton of dust. Its 71% efficiency factor supports this. You get strong returns for your investment. The class's overall low popularity can even be seen as a hidden strength.
While the developers dealt with the most popular one-turn kill strategies that ended games under nearly any condition, Protos Mage remained untouched, and unsurprisingly, took over the meta. Fortunately, opponents have started to adapt and fight back. I hate this deck for one simple reason: the outcome of a match is usually decided before it even begins, and depends entirely on the opponent. If it's a slow deck, Protos Mage will probably win. If it's fast, it will probably lose. Breaking this pattern depends more on luck than skill. The deck contains numerous generation tools that can directly swing a game.
The presence of this archetype in the meta feels inconsistent with the developers' stated goals. Choose this archetype if you enjoy rock paper scissors gameplay. At the same time, Mage has no alternatives, not even bad ones. The only new card in this strategy is Exarch Hitaru. It's more of an optional late game value generator than a core piece. And yes, I'm not mistaken in calling it new, because since its release, it has only ever appeared in niche, highly experimental builds. Imbue Paladin has become one of the biggest surprises of the current meta, showing an impressive 15% play rate at high ranks. Paladin has finally started using the Imbue core not as a supplement, but as the backbone of a full-fledged strategy. Much of this is due to the reduced cost of the modified hero power. This is a mid-range archetype with control elements, capable of adapting to a variety of opponents and winning in multiple ways. If none of those paths work, the deck can generate a board of 10 mana minions in the late game, with Briarspawn Drake being among the most dangerous threats. It's very difficult to withstand that kind of pressure. Petal Picker is the only new mini-set card in the deck. This build strikes a solid balance between cost and performance. 3 legendary and 3 epic cards provide a reasonable efficiency factor of 55%. This makes Imbue Paladin a great middle ground choice for mid-budget players looking to expand their competitive options.
Some Imbue Priest builds have finally begun to show signs of competitiveness, but overall the strategy still serves as food for more successful archetypes. The class's most effective deck remains Menagerie Priest. After the patch, this archetype saw a significant boost, evolving from a niche, experimental build into a stable meta contender. It's yet another aggressive archetype, built around quickly flooding the board with cheap minions of various types, which are then buffed by Menagerie Jug. The deck greatly benefited from the buff to Spirit of the Kaldorei, which also happens to be the only new card it uses from the mini set. From a budget perspective, Menagerie Priest is very accessible, with just 2 legendaries and no epic cards at all. Its efficiency factor of 69% confirms the value of crafting this deck. You get excellent return on investment, which is crucial for effective ladder progression.
Pirate Rogue is living its golden age in the current meta, boasting a remarkable 58% win rate. After the patch, the archetype received a major push and now holds 4% play rate on the climb to legend.
The arrival of Firak the Blazing transformed the previously straightforward pirate aggro deck into a more versatile weapon. This legendary dragon can even become a win condition by himself, capable of closing out drawn-out games. Shadow Step allows you to reuse him, and Shaladrassel also lends power in the late game. But at its core, the deck's main goal is to overwhelm the opponent before those tools are even necessary. The economic efficiency here is especially impressive. With just 2 legendaries and 2 epics, and a 70% efficiency factor, this build is nearly the perfect choice for players on a budget.
Shaman is in a terrible state. It's the worst class in Standard. The mini set brought nothing of value to existing Shaman strategies, and balance changes completely ignored the new Imbue archetype. However, shifts in the meta have opened the door for the return of old decks that represent problems many assumed were long since solved. Asteroid Shaman, despite being significantly nerfed, is making a comeback. Sure, it's less deadly and less dominant than during the Great Dark Beyond, but it still represents the return of non-interactive gameplay. The exact kind of experience the developers recently worked hard to eliminate. This unforgiving build brutally punishes slow decks. For example, during my testing, I played 5 games against mages and had a 100% win rate. In my subjective opinion, this is once again a rock-paper-scissors situation, where the outcome is often decided before the match even begins. Beyond its high win rate against slow decks, the build also includes flexible tools that allow it to contest aggressive opponents. At higher ranks, the deck shows a solid 55% win rate, though that stat comes from fewer than 1,000 recorded games, making it unreliable. Still, its influence is steadily growing, and that's concerning. The same applies to Cycle Rogue. The archetype has undergone significant transformation after the balance changes and now leans heavily on asteroid synergy. I absolutely refuse to promote this deck, as its popularity is already growing far too fast. It's a terrible archetype that ruins the player experience by not letting you actually play the game.
Let's talk about Warlock. The class is vulnerable right now. The Wallow strategy received a bit of love in the recent balance patch, which sparked some renewed player interest, but as an archetype, it's still struggling to survive. Wheel Warlock is slightly more viable at higher ranks. It's yet another strategy whose effectiveness heavily depends on the opponent. In some cases, it's too effective, for example against warriors and slow death knights, thanks to the spell Wheel of Death. But at the same time, it's extremely fragile against other meta leaders. From an investment standpoint, this deck is a poor choice. It's expensive, inconsistent, and as a result, its efficiency factor is just 16%. In the end, this build is only affordable for players with either a large collection or significant financial resources.
The mini set and the balance patch had minimal impact on the best warrior strategies. Terran and Hydration builds failed to integrate any new cards and simply reverted to their original forms. Both strategies revolve around the spell Hydration Station, which remains the core tool for the class. In my opinion, Hydration Warrior is the more stable option for laddering. No exaggeration, it's my favorite deck to play in the current meta, even though I don't fully subscribe to its philosophy. But given the current environment, this archetype feels like the most balanced option overall. It doesn't guarantee wins against any particular strategy, nor does it dominate others, but it has the potential to consistently adapt to different matchups. Its only serious threat is Imbue Paladin, whose endless waves of 10 mana dragons in the late game are nearly impossible to handle. In theory, Protos Mage should be another bad matchup, but Dirty Rag gives you a decent shot at dismantling their setup. Firak the Blazing is the only new card in the list, and it's optional. In my games, it more often blocked a hand slot than provided meaningful value. Still, it's the only addition that brings a hint of freshness to the deck. Despite its strengths, we can't recommend crafting this deck. Its cost is unjustifiably high compared to its performance, but at the same time, it feels like the healthiest option among top-tier meta decks.
Guys, I think I figured out the reason for the long delay in nerfs. It seems the devs wanted to give some breathing room to mini-set cards, to let them see a bit of play in the meta. But after the balance patch, only a quarter of the new cards remained relevant, and even those that proved useful didn't add any freshness to gameplay. They mostly act as tech pieces. It's a complete disappointment. This is easily one of the worst sets we've seen.
Dora, it's hard to argue with that, but on the other hand, at least the new cards didn't increase the overall power level, and that can be seen as a big plus.
Overall, the state of standard has significantly improved. Just the disappearance of Imbue Hunter and Zarimi Priest made the landscape feel much healthier. Of course, not all gameplay problems have been solved. Aggro-heavy decks still dominate, but that's still better than having to deal with Tree Paladin. The oppressive reign of Protos Mage is also slowly fading. There are no overwhelming favorites at the moment, which is a good sign. What worries us, however, is the return of ethereal oracle and archetypes built around it. Asteroid Shaman, Spell Damage Druid, and Cycle Rogue can severely ruin your experience. Right now, these decks are still under control, but their influence is steadily growing. And with that comes the creeping rise of non-interactive gameplay, which personally, we find extremely frustrating.
Dear viewers, what you think of the current meta is much more important than what we think. According to the survey many of you participated in, the pre-patch period was voted the worst in the past year.
Has your opinion changed after the nerf?
Are you satisfied with the state of standard right now?
Let us know your thoughts below and join the polls in your community tab. Remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to support our content and stay updated.
Traditionally, we want to express our boundless gratitude to our sponsors.
Dear friends, your help is invaluable. We will be grateful for any support.
Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for spending this time with us. We really hope that we will have the opportunity to get in touch in the next video.
Take care of yourself.
And never give up.
Job's done.